classical conditioning came to the forefront of psychology during the early 1900s in Russia. The Russian psychologist Ivan Pavlov did Nobel Prize-winning work on digestion, but while studying the role of saliva in dogs' digestive process, he found psychic reflexes. This conditioning was an accidental discovery. His dogs, restrained in an experimental chamber, were presented with meat powder, and they had their saliva connected via a surgically implanted tube in their saliva glands. Over time, he noticed that his dogs, who began salivating before the meat powder was even presented, whether it was by the presence of the handler or merely by a clicking noise produced by the device that distributed the meat powder. This reaction by the dogs is what is known as classical conditioning today. It was found that this conditioning is a learning process that occurs when two stimuli are paired together repeatedly. The unconditioned stimulus in this situation evokes a natural response on the subject, such as when the meat is presented to the dog, it will drool.
I can't hold the camera still.
While a second stimulus, the bell, doesn't have any effect on the dog because it is not paired with anything at the moment. Through a multitude of trials of pairing the previously neutral stimulus with the unconditioned stimulus, the neutral stimulus, the bell, will change to becoming a conditioned stimulus that will cause the dog to drool. Even if presented with no food, the dog will drool at the sound of the bell because it is now a conditioned stimulus, and the drool to the sound of the bell is the conditioned response. After enough trials, the two become paired, and the second stimulus that originally did not evoke any response now generates a response to happen.
We are going to classically condition Tanner's dog to react with excitement when she hears the word treat. We will accomplish this by saying, "Do you want a treat?" and then giving her a treat. After the 5th time doing this, we will say, "Do you want a treat?" but not give her one. If we are successful, she will react with excitement to just this phrase without receiving a treat. The unconditioned stimulus is Tanner saying, "Do you want a treat?" The unconditioned response will be a normal posture with no reaction. In this experiment, the unconditioned stimulus and the conditioned stimulus are the same because the phrase, "Do you want a treat?" is what will inspire a reaction in her in both situations. The conditioned response would be Tanner's dog wagging her tail, barking, or some other form of excitement. The operational definition of excitement for our experiment is any positive reaction, such as tail wagging, running around, jumping, etc.
This is where we begin the conditioning process.
Treat?
Number 2, go.
Do you want a treat?
Go.
Do you want a treat?
4,
Do you want a treat?
and number 5.
Do you want a treat? Do you want a treat? Do you want a treat? Do you want a treat?
The outcome of this experiment was that Tanner's dog had a positive reaction when Tanner asked, "Did you want a treat?" In the short term, the phrase, "Do you want a treat?" should still evoke a positive response in Tanner's dog. In the long term, the phrase, "Do you want a treat?" won't evoke a positive response in Tanner's dog, unless it is followed by a treat. This process is known as extinction. If, a week from now, Tanner says, "Do you want a treat?" and she has a positive reaction, this would be called spontaneous recovery.
There were no ethical considerations for this experiment.